Hi everyone. So we have Kevin here with us today. Kevin, for a brief background, with his brother Victor, co-founded Sir Bitcoin, which was, I think, the first major Bitcoin exchange in Venezuela. That they got pretty big and ultimately got shut down. That's a different story. And we met the Charles brothers through our Telegram channel. I think you guys you found out about Reserve a number of months ago.
Exactly.
Showed up in our channel. And within a few days, you guys were here in the office, and we're talking about like, okay, how do we actually fix the situation in Venezuela? And recently, Kevin and Victor, along with some others, have created a business called Coco Descuentos, which essentially allows people who have left Venezuela but have family members there to purchase food for their family members who are still in Venezuela. So you can make a purchase from abroad, and it actually then gets delivered, if I understand correctly, to your family, which is super exciting. They just created it, and they've already gotten like $65,000 worth of purchases, so there's like lots of demand for this. And really what we're here to talk about is a much bigger vision, a much broader plan, because there's an energy crisis developing and potentially getting much worse in Venezuela right now. And Kevin came over today for us to strategize about this and think about what could be done about that. So I asked him, we were just discussing this, got really excited about some like possibilities, and was like, well, let's make a quick video and put this out there and tell people about this vision, because we want to build support and see who else is interested in collaborating on this. So I asked Kevin to just give a rundown like he just did for the camera. So please take it away.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. As David mentioned, my name is Kevin Charles. And as entrepreneurs, we have been really focused on the economic crisis that Venezuela has been facing for the last few decades. By diving deep into what the problem is really evident to recognize that the major crisis that we're facing right now in Venezuela is being produced by a phenomenon called hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a phenomenon where a central bank basically prints a lot of money and prices of everything skyrocket. In Venezuela, we have been facing hyperinflation, and basically what that does is that it destroys all pricing system. At an initial level, this destroys basically the ability to do commerce, and at a secondary level, it destroys our infrastructure, because as you can see, when you don't have an efficient way of getting paid in a stable format, in a format that your payment retains the value through time, your money loses a lot of value. Therefore, industries in Venezuela cannot be profitable. And on top of that, the national income stream, the national historical income stream, which is oil, the industry is almost dead because of high debt and the impossibility of the government to get financing in order to reactivate the economy. So this situation has caused many millions of Venezuelans to leave the country, and that has caused an interesting phenomena that we believe can be the foundation for rebuilding very key different industries inside the country. So to the date, more than 5 million Venezuelans have left the country, and according to the Latin American Bank of Development, in 2018, the amount of money that the Venezuelan diaspora sent back to their home to Venezuela in order for us to support our family members back there reached from $4 to $6 billion. So we believe that this could be a great foundation if we properly can channel this money into different industries. Now, what do we have here? The problem we're facing right now is that most of this money is actually not getting into the country. What happened is that from these $4 billion, like most transactions happen between international accounts, and then people acquire bolivars in order for them to send value to their families back home. This is a big problem because once you turn your dollars into bolivar, they start losing a lot of value exponentially. Day by day they lose value because the price of goods and services go up in bolivar, so you make less money. What we need here is a new economic reform that allows us to stop this destruction. we have strategized on our previous conversation 3 key components of a new financial ecosystem that can help us kickstart a recovery program on the following industries. Energy, to be the most important one because it's the mother of all services. Telecommunication, so that we can have the infrastructure of our smartphones to exchange value and information between one another, and other similar economies. In order for us to do that, we need to have a way to capture these $4 billion and inject it into the economy. That's why Nevin and his team, they're working on a stable coin called Reserve. What this is going to allow us to do is to have a format in which dollars can be captured in the form of a stable coin, keeping the same value of the asset in being held in reserve, and basically allow people to start paying each other in a stable format. To give you a contrast of the benefit of this, is like think in terms of you having a watch that you're used to. We need a unit of accounting in order for us to recover the order in the economy. If you have a watch that doesn't have 60 minutes, and instead, like one day has 65, the other day has 80 minutes, eventually you will gonna lose like sense of time, and you're not gonna know how to operate. The same thing happens with money. Once you lose the unit of account, everything gets distorted. So we highly believe that with a stable coin, we can recover all this pricing system and have that work. The problem is that right now, a stablecoin is not enough. We need more because we reach a point of the crisis where the problem is so big that it's affecting our infrastructure. And unfortunately, since all these institutions, and we're talking about electricity, telecommunication, are public companies, that means that they're owned by the government and they don't have the ability to raise funds. We believe that with the proper implementation of financial technologies, we can start a program in which we privatize many of these companies and reactivate an economic program that can make them actually sustainable services so that they can keep providing energy and utility services for the Venezuelan population and restart the economy. Okay, so how do we do this? We basically need 2 other components. We need a digital identity because as fintech guys, we know that in order for you to provide a financial services, call it a payment system, an exchange, so people to trade between one asset into another, you need to verify that customer. And right now, in the world, financial companies have to verify all of their customers. And if we really need to implement a program in Venezuela that can happen fast. So if we're trying to implement a new financial system with a lot of service providers that can allow us to achieve what we want to achieve, we need to help them remove this big chunk out of the equation so that the KYC can be outsourced to a central entity.
Yeah, we totally stand by this. Like we are having to solve this, and every other player in the space has to spend a bunch of time to solve this. So if you can get one solution that people rally around, it definitely makes the process much easier for each individual component to be built on top of.
That's right, exactly, because in this case, financial services and entrepreneurs working on financial tools, as Nevin mentioned, can focus on what they know best, which is to provide the financial logic behind the action that needs to be provided. And right now, a lot of financial technologies around the company in the US or Europe spend a lot of time and money dealing with the KYC. Right now, we have the opportunity to centralize that aspect of the business. Thirdly, and most important, is that if we have these 2 components in place, it will enable us to reach a third very important component, which is to create a capital markets in Venezuela that is going to allow us to channel individuals and private savings into specific sectors so that we can, recover them. How do we do that? Well, basically with the help of blockchain technology, we can create systems in which as you can see in this map in front of you, I forgot to mention that earlier, these red figures that you see here represent energy plants in Venezuela. And for example, right now, in order for you to understand a little bit what's the problem of the electrical grid in Venezuela and how we can use this financial ecosystem to help recover it. Imagine that, okay, so this is the current electrical grid in Venezuela. So for you to have an idea, we have around 34 kilowatts of installed capacity to generate energy. Out of those 34,000, we have available around 5K. So this is installed capacity, meaning the capacity that we can, of energy we can generate given our current infrastructure. But 5 kilowatts is actually what we're generating. And the reason why this is happening is because all these power plants that are currently government owned cannot have access to capital in order to renew equipment, and they don't have access to capital in order to import the gas needed to run them because the national oil cannot longer provide them with oil. So the reason why we're facing this electrical crisis right now is because all these plants are facing a cash flow problem. We believe that by efficiently channeling these $4 billion that are coming from the Venezuelan diaspora, meaning that every single family in Venezuela had somebody in their family leaving in pursuit of better economic opportunities, so that the person could send money back home and afford, the new price of living that has risen in Venezuela. So if we can properly channel these $4 billion that are actually not coming in right now into the country in the form of dollars, and we can do that through a stable coin and allow these thermal plants to provide the region where they're located with energy and ensuring that they can be sustainable by a new pricing system, I think we can recover it. But then before that, we need to raise money for this platform, for these plants. So that's why when the capital markets come into game, because for the first time we can propose a program in which we grab one of these plants and allow foreign investments such as Venezuelans living abroad, other institutional companies with interest in Venezuela, such as Chinese oil companies or venture capitals, or US venture capitals and oil companies could be interested in investing in this plan and fostering a privatization of this sector. So that's kind of like the overall synthesization.
Awesome. So can I ask you some questions,
Absolutely.
like for my own understanding and to clarify this for the viewers? So, I guess so one question is, this sounds like a really big project, and like probably just like you and I can't do it ourselves. So who are some of the people who are already thinking about this, who are already sort of excited about trying to make this happen? Like you mentioned, like some meetings that happened at Consensus. Like tell us a little bit about the actors that are kind of already excited about this and trying to move this forward.
That's right, thank you for that question. As David mentioned, I had the opportunity to assist last week to a meeting that took place in New York called Consensus. It takes place every year where technical people, financial people, product people, people from government, they come together and try to see how we can use these new technologies in order to solve the real problems we're facing. We had a specific panel focused on Venezuela with Venezuelan players and representatives. Key players such as financial fintech companies, digital identity providers, companies with a lot of experience in capital markets. And it seems to us that we have all the players needed in order for us to booster this ecosystem. And I'm gonna just write it down really quick.
Yeah.
In the stablecoin aspect, we have Reserve. They have made an amazing job building their smart contract and their technology for the tokenization of USD backed token initially. In the digital identity spectrum, we have another interesting company called Citizens, who they are already providing digital identity for Venezuelans. And what I'm gonna make a really quick emphasis on this because I think I didn't explain properly the importance of a digital identity in the context of this new financial system. As you might be familiar, every time you're gonna use a financial service in the current world, you have to go through a KYC service, a know your customer protocol, in which they verify your identity and they ask you for a lot of documentation. And so if we change, in this new ecosystem from the principle of having each single financial institution verify, like duplicating efforts and verifying each one of them, all of the users, is gonna take a lot of time for us to massively scale, and have and onboard all the Venezuelans that we need to use this system, efficiently. But if we switch from that principle to a principle in which we have just one database, where all the information is stored, and is secured through a distributed architecture, then you can have all service providers just point to that digital identity a provider and basically access KYC as a service. So it will to have this component will highly enhance our ecosystem. There is another important.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
So something that people ask us a lot is, you want to bring stable money to Venezuelans. What are the governments going to think about this? What is the Venezuelan government going to think? What is the U.S. government going to think? There are sanctions in place. Something that's super important here is that a lot of people in Venezuela are in a position where the U.S. government is totally fine with you providing financial services to them, and then there are some people that the U.S. government isn't fine with you doing that with. And you have to be able to separate those people out, right? It's actually, like, we think a small minority of the population that actually can't be serviced with these services. And so if you have a high enough quality digital identity system, then you can actually efficiently basically map out, like, okay, who can be serviced, and that way you can do all of this in a way that is actually along the lines of what the U.S. government wants. Like they're like passing, actually legislation trying to do things to help the situation in Venezuela. They're not opposed to that. They're just opposed to helping corrupt individuals in Venezuela that are committing criminal acts. And so we can totally build this whole thing in such a way where we're not facilitating those criminal acts, and then this is like a really key piece of having everyone do that all together.
That's right. And on top of that, to add, these guys, I cannot disclose much of their technology, but these guys are connected to institutions from the U.S. that basically allow them to screen, each one of the individuals, with the standards that the U.S. Treasury requires, in order to keep away bad actors.
Yeah,
that's right. So basically, with the use of a stablecoin, which at the same time they're building their own payment system, and also we have other payment system providers that have already onboarded many customers in Venezuela, such as RTM. If we have a stablecoin, a payment system, and a digital identity as a service, the way it would look is basically you as a user of this financial service will access an RTM wallet. You're gonna open an account not by creating a new account, but by signing in with your digital identity, similarly to how people sign up to different websites using Facebook or other accounts that they have created in other social networks before.
Yeah.
So basically, a user will sign up into RTM and basically buy a reserve token with their fiat currency, so that this way they can migrate into this new system seamlessly, right? Once we onboard, we have these pieces together, we can seamlessly, provide financial services for the Venezuelan diaspora, and if we have this in place, we can create we can boost a capital markets, which means that we have the right path and channels and the right foundation to channel private and individual savings from the Venezuelan diaspora into these key services. So that way we can create a new capital market.
Yeah. And so one thing on the capital market front is that, if you think about as an investor, are you willing to invest in a business that's operating in an economy where the money is losing its value? it's actually a very risky thing to do, right? Because if that business's income is in this currency that's constantly fluctuating against your currency, where it's typically going down against your currency, then it's really hard to predict, well, how much money are you actually going to get out of that investment? Also, if the people in the economy that would be the customers of that business are essentially becoming poorer and poorer because of all these currency and economic issues, then it's really hard to even predict the revenue streams of that business, even if they were, like, for instance, priced in dollars. And so something that's so cool about this vision is that the customers, essentially, for this are actually the people who've already left Venezuela, who are earning money in the US, in Spain, in Colombia and other places, where they're earning a stable income in a stable currency, and then they can convert that to a dollar-denominated stablecoin and pay for the service on behalf of their families. And so the revenue, like the income that's ultimately paying for this, is being generated by people who have stable jobs, who are earning in stable currencies. And then all you need to do is create the liquidity so that they can get into a single, like, stable cryptocurrency in order to pay for all this. And so that actually presents an investment opportunity that is much easier to reason about. It's something that we think foreign investors, like all the way up to, like, potentially, like, state actors, like you could imagine, like even like, like high-level people in China looking at this and being like, oh, actually, I can see that this is a profitable business venture over the course of time. And so that's something that, like, we spend a bunch of time at the beginning thinking about, like, well, how do we get merchants block by block signed up? How do we get all, consumers signed up and so on? But, like, this is part of the vision for us too, is how do we make it so that the entire capital market ecosystem is functional, where people can actually understand, like, what's, what the income is going to look like, what currency is going to come in, and you can make an investment and actually predict what the outcome is going to be, which is so important.
That's a pretty key question, and right now, and this is where our startup come into play also into this equation. Our startup is called Coco. So basically, what we're doing right now is that we're onboarding all the Venezuelan diaspora into an e-commerce platform easily by basically allowing them to pay to connect, through Coco. Coco is an on-demand grocery delivery service right now, and in the remittance business in Venezuela, it's a good strategy for us to go after the Venezuelan diaspora, because every Venezuelan that leave the country is worried about sending food to their families. So what we do is that we're an on-demand grocery delivery service for these immigrants, and we basically allow them to send food to their families instead of wiring them money. And this goes with your question, because we believe that through if we keep onboarding subscribers at the rate that we are doing it right now, pretty soon we're gonna be able to properly estimate, focus on specific niches and estimate the income stream that we can generate from these customers, and run proper projections and see if how sustainable and what's going to be the return on investment and all these variables that we need to identify.
Yeah, totally. And so I want to like take a moment to acknowledge that, like, this is an immensely complicated thing, right? So, like, these are state-owned power plants. Like, there has to be, like, a political transition, and, like, you have to raise maybe like $50 million per power plant to get this up and running, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to do here, and it's not all figured out. This is coming off of, like, a 2-hour discussion about all the difficulties and, like, how do we solve those. But so we wanted to put this vision out there, even though it's not fully formed, because part of the idea is there are a lot of people who are from Venezuela and want to fix the situation. There are a lot of people in crypto in particular who understand that Venezuela is a place that really needs, like, a better financial system right now. And so, like, essentially the point of publishing this video is, if you're watching this and you're excited about this possibility and you're building something that's relevant, or you're interested in investing in something that's relevant, you guys should reach out to us. And so we'll probably publish this with like links back to reserves channels, you can get in touch with us, and links to Coco, so you guys can get in touch as well. And like we mentioned, so Ruben at AirTM, I think, is, like, pretty excited about this as well. And then Citizens, and there's a number of other,
And I forgot to mention a company called Blockhouse, which is a company based on Switzerland, which they're an investment bank on the blockchain, so they really know how to basically raise capital using blockchain technologies in a way that is compliant with international standards.
Yep. And then one more thing I'll mention is that this discussion is happening in context of some of the people from the Guaido sort of regime that's looking to move into power in Venezuela, and so there's some support there. And then also a number of influential people like Ricardo Hassman are very interested in this. He's a famous economist who's potentially has the most power in impacting future economic policy in Venezuela, and so there's like a lot of energy coming together around this general idea right now. And so if you're interested, now is the time to get in touch.
Exactly, we welcome you to join us and try to make this happen. If we succeed, eventually we could recover an important sector of the industry. Let me explain really quick something, an economic fact that is really important to have in perspective in order to understand the impact, the potential impact of the success of an implementation of a program like this. In an economy, you have three key sectors. The primary sector, which is the extraction of resources, which is basically which has been the Venezuelan business model for decades.
Yep.
We extract oil and then we export it and we get paid for that. That's done for us. We have another sector of the economy, which is the secondary sector, which is the transformation of raw materials into finalized products. We're not there yet, but we have a third sector of the economy, which is the third sector, which includes services, commerce, financial services, you name it, sharing economy. And we can unlock, and according to Paul Krugman, the famous economist, this is the sector of the economy that provides with the most employment to a nation. So if we can, as we manage our way out of the crisis, if we can focus on recovering by using financial technologies, we can recover key components of the sector, key components of the economies, in order for us to have a very successful third economy. We're going to have to recover electricity, the energy industry, telecommunications, and then we can do that by laying out these technologies, and so that Venezuelans in the future can have all the energy needed to run their services, to provide, to unleash their creativity and come up with the goods and services that the nation needs.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. The world needs more people doing this thing.
Thank you, bro.